Hey guys, Crackshot47 here. So, here with a new video again, finally. Today we have something pretty special, at least to me as a former military veteran. So, today we have the SIG M18. Now this is the second model the U.S. military adopted, the M17. This is the shorter barreled version. Really they adopted them concurrently because this gun has a unique feature. The frames are interchangeable, the slides are interchangeable. The only thing really that makes the gun is the chassis system, which I'll show you in a second. Now, this gun is 100% unloaded. You can see nothing in there. So, clear and safe. So before we discuss the gun in a little bit more detail, let's take it down. I'll show you that chassis system. So you lock the slide back. No mag in here now, so that's first step. Turn the rotating lever here. Now that's the same on any SIG pretty much. And ride the slide forward. Hold this down, ride the slide forward. So you don't have to pull the trigger on this gun. It's one of its features. Kind of a safety feature for the military. Now, as you'll notice, it's not too dissimilar from your average SIG, you know, minus the striker obviously, but this is basically a P320. So it's just like a P320 pretty much. So take your recoil spring out like a normal SIG. You'll notice it's kind of a beefed up recoil spring there. Bees, jeez. Come out right after the rain, guys. All right, so barrel comes out, there it is, and that's it really for the slide. So it's basically the only difference between like a SIG P320 for instance is the striker, but it's pretty standard for all P320s. The frame here, you'll notice this is the chassis system. Now this is also unique to the P320 family, and this is probably one of the reasons why the military adopted it. You could pull this out and remove the chassis system. I'm not going to do it because it's a little finicky, but it's really easy to do. You just pull this out, this comes loose. You can take it out, you can swap it out with different frames. They make metal frames for this gun. They also make different sizes, so you can put the full-size frame on this gun, although it would look kind of goofy with this slide. I don't even think it would fit on, no, it wouldn't even fit on there because of this. But for like a standard M17, you can actually put a full-length slide on there. You can put different arrangements like the X series guns. So this gun is completely 100% modular. It is a military gun for the 21st century. You know, there's a lot of people who love the Beretta. I love the Beretta too, but I'll be honest with you. I carried the Beretta. I love the Beretta. I kind of like this a little bit better after shooting it. But that's neither here nor there. That's actually not the gun we're going to be comparing this to today. We're going to be comparing it to the VP9, kind of an apples to apples comparison, but a little more on that later. This is the slide here. Nothing really unique about that except for the mounting system on here. So this is something the military gun is unique for. Later on it was copied by like the X series guns. It was incorporated into that line by SIG. But basically there's two screws here. You can remove those two screws from the bottom. You must do it from the bottom, so it's a little bit awkward for some people. But you can take this off, this plate off, and you can replace the rear sight with a red dot sight of your choice, depending on, you know, whichever platform you buy from SIG. I believe this is cut right now for a Leopold sight, the one that the military actually adopted. Don't know why they went with Leopold, but that's what they did. Anyway, moving on. So putting this gun back together, it is a little bit funny. So one thing you got to keep in mind, normal, just like any SIG, but this is where the problem usually comes in. So this has to be put together in a particular order. These longer sides have to be this way. It's not like the rounded plates there. It has to be that way, otherwise I can show you what happens. So let's put it in backwards and right there, that's the wrong way to put the gun together. I'll show you why you have to get this gun put together correctly in the correct orientation, the recoil spring. See, right now it's not even going back, but if, say you made it like a little bit off kilter, like, say like that. You just line up the slide there. You see what happens with the recoil spring? It hangs out of the gun. So this thing will actually hang out the end of the gun if you know, right now it's on there too bad, but it will hang out the end of the gun when you put it together, and then you'll kind of have to rotate it to get it back in there. It's best to just put it back together right the first time. You're going to want the long parts of this on either side here, and then the shorter parts up top. So it's basically like an oval. Okay, so a little bit of history on the M18 variant of the SIG P320. It was initially one of the competitors in the MHS program, which is like the modular handgun system that the military was kind of moving towards to replace the Beretta handgun. Now this gun was, well, it competed alongside the Beretta APX, a variant of the 509 FN. The Glock 19X was a very prominent competitor in that competition, and actually was probably the next runner-up if you really want to scale it that way. But the military eventually went with the SIG. Now there was a little bit of controversy there. I think Glock threatened to sue, but the military ultimately did go with the P320. Now I already showed you the unique system the P320 employs to make it so modular, but now I want to talk about kind of a comparison between two different guns, the VP9 and the SIG P320 M18. Now I'm gonna tell you right off the bat, I love both of these guns. It's not really a biased thing for me. There are things I like about either gun more than the other, but let's start with the one that everybody always talks about, trigger pull. So this gun's already cocked. I'm going to cock this one, empty mag. This gun is clear and safe. So starting with the VP9, trigger pull on this gun, a little bit of take up here, there's a little bit of grit. Now once you've owned these guns for a while, you'll notice that there's a little bit of there's an initial wall here, a little bit of grit you pull through, not that bad, and you hit a definitive wall. Very tactile, very easy to notice. And then the reset, also very tactile, a little bit sloppy, not bad. I quite like the VP9. I think it has probably one of the best striker fire triggers on the market, and really the brake is just everything. It's a very light trigger pull. It's around probably 4.5 pounds. Now the SIG has a very short trigger pull, so you hit this initial wall, there's a tiny bit of grime, and then it breaks. So it's a little bit like a Glock, a little bit spongy there once you hit this initial wall, so it's a little bit spongy and then break. But you'll notice it's very short travel on the trigger. And likewise, the reset is very short, very tactile, and it'll let you know when the trigger resets. It's pretty loud. So in terms of the trigger pull, I personally like the VP9 trigger pull better in terms of the felt weight, even though technically this is probably around 4.5–5 pounds. It's probably around 4.5 pound trigger pull. It's not really all that noticeable from that standpoint, but when you're pulling the trigger on this gun, the VP9 is so smooth that it feels like a lighter trigger, in my opinion, and that brake is so definitive and so easy to just push through, and it just snaps. So the VP9 trigger, in my opinion, is superior to the P320 in that respect, in terms of the brake, in terms of the overall trigger weight, the trigger feel in terms of weight. However, the reset on this gun and the trigger pull, the initial trigger pull, is a lot shorter, and it's fairly clean, a little bit of grip, but not bad. Like I said, I like the VP9 in some ways. I like the P320 in other ways in terms of the trigger, but I have to give the edge to the VP9 in my opinion. Now, there are a lot of features that the VP9 does not have that the SIG also has, or does have, and I can break down and show you, but really I think everybody knows the VP9 at this point. It doesn't have a modular system, so it's not the same kind of chassis system that exists in the P320, so it doesn't have the level of modularity, although you are able to change back straps, which is something that the SIG actually lacks, although I mean the ability to swap out grips pretty much negates that. Talked about the trigger. They both have Picatinny rails, have a little bit more rail space on the VP9, but really, I mean, it's enough for both guns, so I think they're about even in that respect. The VP9, this VP9 does not have the provision to add an optic. However, they do make the VP9 with an optic rail, with an optic plate included now on current production VP9. So in that respect, they have the same ability to attach a red dot. You have that same ability on either gun, so that's quite useful. Now, the SIG P320 comes with 17 round mags factory. They also come with, on the M18 variant, they come with these 21 rounders. So usually you get two. I only got one with mine. The VP9 comes stock with 15 round mags. However, they do make aftermarket mags now that hold 17 rounds. So when it comes to initial capacity, if you don't go for the 21 rounders, I mean, these guns hold about the same amount of ammo, generally speaking. However, you also have the added benefit of being able to have ready access to a 21 round magazine that the military approved. So it's quite good. So there are some benefits to having the M18 because you do have that military support. Alright guys, well, that's pretty much it for the differences between these guns. There's superficial differences, like you have these caulking assists on the VP9, but really, I mean, the grooves are cut so well in the M18 that really it's not much of a difference. And this slide's fairly easy to pull back. And yeah, I love both of these guns. I think that carrying the M9 for so long, I really do prefer the SIG M18. It just has a more consistent trigger pull because it's a striker-fired gun. And really, it's lighter, it's easier to carry, and I think it's going to serve well in the armed forces. Okay guys, there were a couple of things I wanted to mention about these pistols in terms of the safety and the mag release. So the mag release on the M18 is a standard push-button mag release. It is available on both sides. You could swap them out. So it's not one of the ones where it's like completely ambidextrous where you can use either side at will. You have to swap this out to use it on the right-hand side. But standard fare for pretty much any striker-fired pistol. Now the VP9 is a truly ambidextrous design. Notice you could just drop the mag from the right side. You can use your finger to drop the mag from the the right side. Left side here you can drop it normally. Right side here you could drop it with a finger. That's usually what I like to do with this gun. A little bit awkward to get your thumb up there. But yeah, it's pretty easy, very tactile, very typical of German handguns. Now the safety on the VP9 is, well, there really is no external safety. They do have a trigger safety much like a Glock. So in order to pull this trigger back all the way, you have to depress this little, what Mac calls a dingus, and the trigger will go back fully. On this gun you actually have a 1911 style safety that is available on both sides, and also the slide release is available on both sides, just like the VP9. But the safety is like a 1911, swipe down to disengage, swipe up to engage, trigger won't fire, it'll fire when it's down. So just like a 1911 in that respect. So the safety is kind of a consideration for the military. It's something they wanted. Although I will say, this gun is in the service of the U.S. military. The VP9 recently was actually adopted by the Japanese Armed Forces, so I think that's pretty interesting. But it was adopted in its standard configuration, sans an external safety on the frame or on the slide, just on the trigger. Just a little fun fact for you guys. I play Call of Duty. Do you play Call of Duty? Well, this is not an advertisement for Call of Duty. I played Modern Warfare, and I noticed this gun, or a variation thereof, is in it. It's called the M19, I think, and or something of that effect. But I did notice some differences, and this is one of the things I love about Call of Duty that I think is just hilarious. Apparently Corvus makes this gun, not Sig Sauer, and the serrations here are reversed. So instead of going that way, they're kind of going backwards, kind of in a backwards fashion. Same kind of style though. Nothing up here really. The trigger's beefy, so it's basically got the trigger that would shoot itself if you dropped it. So that's nice. You can upgrade it for you know, once you level up and you get something like this. But this is the heavy trigger, right? So they have the 21 round mags with a black floor plate. Doesn't really match up, but yeah, this gun is on Call of Duty, so you could shoot this gun on Call of Duty. That's actually I don't know, it's the first time I've ever shot this gun, if you want to consider shooting a gun in a video game actually shooting. But anyway, I digress. I want to end this video on a lighthearted note. You know, Call of Duty, that's great, but I also want to talk about this gun just a little bit more. The first time I actually got to shoot this gun, it wasn't an M18, it was the compact version. It was actually, I loved it. I shot really well with this gun. Shoot really well with the VP9. Now, if you're looking for a good striker-fired pistol, I'd highly recommend either of these guns. The VP9, in my opinion, is probably just a hair better in terms of, well, the trigger pull. The sights on this gun, I actually prefer the SIG sights. They actually come stock with something I didn't mention earlier in the video. They come stock with the SIG Glow night sights, so it's like you get tritium sights with the gun, whereas the VP9 you have to pay extra for the tactical model to actually get that, or you can replace the sights. Overall, guys, I want to thank you for coming out with me today. You know, it's it's nice to be able to do this on YouTube. It's not monetizable or anything. It's just a hobby of mine. But thank you for coming along this journey coming along with me on this journey. And soon we're going to have something really interesting for you. Last video we had that little teaser with the the cigar and stuff. So that's going to be the next video coming up. It's going to be interesting. A friend of mine, his company actually produces this. It's a neat little add-on to your rifle, little tactical cigar holder thingy. And trust me, it's a lot of fun. No practical use, but it's a hell of a lot of fun. You can sit there and smoke your cigar while you're smoking a target. So, I'll see you then. My AK, my Russian AK, which I did a video on about 5 or 6 months ago. I think it was 5 or 6 months ago. It is almost done. I talked to the folks at Two Rivers Arms. It's almost complete, so we will have that coming for you imminently. It will be coming. So thank you again. If you have any questions, concerns, if you felt like I didn't cover anything on the M18 that you felt like I should cover in this video, please let me know. If you want me to talk about the VP9 again in more detail, please let me know. This is kind of my carry gun when I'm not feeling lazy. Usually I carry PPK because I like to wear basketball shorts. But anyway, thank you. Please subscribe. Please ding the bell. And let me know if you have any suggestions for new videos. Thank you very much, and Crackshot 47 out.